Good morning, North Carolina. My name is Curtis Wright. I'm host of the Morning Beat on the Big Talker FM and on CarolinaTalkNetwork.com. Today we're talking with Bill Randall. He's a Republican candidate for the 13th Congressional District. Bill, it's good to see you again. It's good to be back with you here today. I thought what we would do today is start out with maybe you're introducing yourself to the folks out there and telling them a little bit about your background.
All right, Curtis, thank you for the opportunity. And yes, my background is I'm actually here in North Carolina. My wife and I moved here when my wife got a job up here. And my background is military. I was in the Navy for 27 years. After retiring from the military, I got a job as an independent insurance agent. I've also worked 3 years for the Veterans Administration. And I've worked for a management consulting firm. I have an MBA degree. I'm very familiar with business. And in coming to the state of North Carolina, I think I bring some pretty interesting things to the table as far as running for this office.
You know, I always ask candidates this question, and I think the people are interested in the answer to this question, and that is, what was it that motivated you to step forward, put yourself out there in public like this, and run for this particular office, which is, of course, the 13th Congressional District here in North Carolina?
Well, Curtis, 2010 is game, set, and match for the United States of America. If we don't bring solid leadership back to the U.S. Congress, it's all over. We're already moving at a reckless pace for ever-expanding government, and I feel that I need to get involved in the process. I think I bring skills to the table that will enable me to be a good representative for North Carolina's 13th Congressional District. And instead of talking a good game, I believe in getting in there and actually making a difference and bringing the people to Washington, D.C.
You know, whether it's in different pockets of North Carolina or whether it's across the entire state, across the nation, we have seen an historic amount of people get involved. Not just Republicans, not just Democrats, but independents. We have retired folks that have gotten up and gotten out and gotten involved. We've seen younger folks get involved. What have you taken away from this? What have you seen? What have you learned from this last year of, I believe, historic involvement by the American people?
Actually, Curtis, I really learned a lot in going across the state of North Carolina when I ran for state chairman. I was listening to the people. And even within the state of North Carolina, we had found that there were people that felt that their voice was not being heard at the state level. And in hearing what their concerns are, it led me to have a greater burden. And that's why I'm entering the race for Congress, North Carolina's 13th Congressional District. I've learned that really it doesn't take rocket science to figure out that we need to bring responsible government to bear on the laws that we bring to the land. And whenever you just break it down to the basics, I think that if you have legislators that just take a common sense approach and systematically look to see what is best for the people of the United States, and does this follow the Constitution, and am I operating on behalf of the people instead of my own special interests, if they just take it straightforwardly with honesty and integrity, they're going to represent the people the way they're supposed to. And I've learned that when people are not taking that approach, they look to kowtow and pander to special interests, and the voice of the people is not heard, and that's what we have today.
You know, what I've seen is, of course, you see the yellow flag, the "Don't Tread on Me." You see a lot of signs that talk about various rights and "Don't take my rights." So in play this year has been, I think, a very important, but a very personal retrospect, a debate about what are our rights, what is the role of government. And people have had some very strong feelings about that. What is your philosophy of the role of government today?
Curtis, and when you were mentioning about the people and the scenes that you described, it really warms my heart whenever I think about people actually getting engaged and involved in their government, or in the process of our government. And I see the role of government as one that serves the people and not the other way around. Go back to the Constitution, and particularly the preamble to the Constitution. It says, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Whenever you look at the preamble, it starts with three key words: we the people. Ronald Reagan quoted that more than any other president that I can recall. And when we see the role of government as something that is serving the people, you have a great and thriving republic. But when you see the people serving, or if government envisions itself as the people serving it, then you're moving towards tyranny. So I think that when we have a government that is responsive, that is not self-serving, that actually comes and serves the people, that is the form of government we need. And the only thing that the preamble gives us as far as the government providing is the common defense. Healthcare and other things are not in there. It says provide for the common defense.
You know, Bill, I mentioned what I thought was the historic involvement of people this year in the public debates. But there's something else that's been amazing, and that is the folks that have picked up the bills, gone out and searched on their own analysis of bills or proposals on policy. And interestingly enough, from that came another issue. And that was, we came to find out that a lot of our elected officials, maybe even a majority of them, were not reading the bills themselves. There was a lot of excuses. My staff does it, or it's very complex. We've even heard the comment that, could anybody really understand it? That's why I didn't read it. How would you, as a congressman, how are you going to go about looking at a new bill or a proposal, evaluating it? Will you do that yourself? Will you leave that to your staff? How will you do that?
Curtis, you better believe I'm going to read the bill. That is something that I have an obligation to do, and I won't settle for anything less than that. And when I look at a bill and the provisions, it had better meet certain criteria before it would even get my consideration. Is it constitutional? Is it affordable? Is it necessary? Is it ethical? Those are basics. And without meeting that criteria, how can anyone in good conscience support any legislation that doesn't fit it? Would any legislator have the right to bring forth legislation that is unconstitutional, that is not affordable, that is unnecessary, that is unethical? Of course, they don't have that prerogative. But yet we have legislation that is going through now, for example, the health care bill, that fails all four. And it's interesting that they hold one standard in legislation that they try to push. For example, I'm running against Congressman Brad Miller. He prides himself in putting forth legislation that talks about predatory lending. Well, what about the hypocrisy of putting forth a bill that is predatory legislation? You know, he wants to put forth legislation that is going to penalize financial companies, and I'm all for protecting the consumer. But what about protecting the American people from legislation that has no place in government? Yes, I would read the bill, I would make sure that I'm on top of it, and I would make sure that it meets certain criteria before I would even consider it for passage.
Bill, this past year in particular, we have seen unprecedented borrowing. We have seen something that has scared even the most experienced economic expert that I've interviewed, and that is printing our own money and often buying our own debt. But the bottom line is that this country has made almost close to $200 trillion worth of promises that we have no idea how we're going to keep. We are every day talking about new programs that we think are solutions, but they come with a price tag of hundreds of billions of dollars, but we don't know where that money is going to come from. Again, as I said earlier, the word government. What is government going to do about this? What is government going to do about this? How do we reverse this cycle, this trend? How do we take ourselves off this path of borrowing and spending and putting things off till tomorrow?
Curtis, the first step we need to do is get a good conservative Congress in there this fall in 2010. That's a good first step. We have individuals that are not listening, and they're acting irresponsibly in government. Margaret Thatcher said the problem with socialism is that eventually they run out of other people's money. How true it is today, and it is sad, it's a sad commentary that you have individuals who are legislating and spending like there's no tomorrow and doing it in a reckless and irresponsible manner. I think that we really need to look at the majority party that's in Congress right now. Scott Brown was elected in Massachusetts, but yet they took the opportunity before seating him to pass more legislation that upped the debt almost another $2 trillion. That was by design, and they forced that through in a hurry. Yes, the thing that we need to do is bring responsible leadership to government, and we start by electing good officials that have a conservative mindset, that are going to be fiscally responsible, and we do that this fall, and I'm one of those candidates running, and we need to get behind all of those candidates who are going to listen to the people and do the right thing in government.
So, Bill, what can you say to the folks out there that are considering casting a vote for you, that's something they can believe in, that they won't hear from you once you're elected? Now, hold on, you don't understand.
Curtis, I care whether or not the people trust me. I am going to be from the people, for the people. We have had candidates, not just candidates, we've had individuals in office that have said, I don't care whether you trust me or not. That is not the case with Bill Randall. I am very passionate. I am very concerned, just like all of the other concerned citizens out there, and I will be looking to bring the people to Washington, D.C. and be their representative the way it's supposed to be. I do care, and care very much about the people in this district.
We talked previously about the role of government. What is your perspective on all this? Because if you listen to the President of the United States and members of Congress, you would think they're running an employment agency rather than being our elected officials regarding, policy of state.
Curtis, the economic engine for this country is the private sector, not government. Government needs to get out of the way and needs to remove burdensome regulation, unnecessary regulation on business that is stymieing the growth and the recovery. So my philosophy is the less government, the better. That means the less unnecessary government, really to remove any unnecessary government and to free up the private sector to be able to operate profitably without government intervention is the way to go. And that's how we're going to turn this thing around. So my philosophy is government out of the way.
Where does the Republican Party stand on issues important to the minority community? What you believe in as a conservative, and how you reach out. What do you believe? What value do you believe you bring to the minorities in your district, and will bring to them, that may not have been brought before this, or even by other Republicans?
Curtis, I think one of the things that will help the process is for individuals to stop with this nonsense and carte blanche statement that there's no difference amongst any of us. That is absolutely ridiculous. We have differences. We have diversity. There is nothing wrong in recognizing that there's diversity among us. When a woman walks into a room, I certainly should be able to discern that that is a female. And by recognizing that it's a female, it doesn't make me biased or prejudiced. It just recognizes her for who she is. If I recognize a man, the same thing. There is nothing wrong with recognizing that. The problem comes in when I start giving preferential treatment to one or the other. So first and foremost, there is nothing wrong with recognizing that there are differences. As far as the Republican platform is concerned, particularly the conservative principles of our party, I think that we actually have a closer beat on what the U.S. Constitution stands for, whereas you have individuals that are, let's say, more liberal leaning or whatever. They want to differentiate and they want to give certain rights and privileges to certain groups of individuals, and that is not our posture and position. So again, just to repeat it, I think that there's nothing wrong with recognizing that we have differences. I think that we have an equal playing ground whenever we give everyone afford everybody the same opportunity to succeed, and don't give preferential treatment to one group or the other. That's where we are going to shine as conservatives in the future.
You know, Bill, in talking about national security, it's a very sensitive issue. It's a very complex issue, but very sensitive. There's many who talk about what's compassionate. There's many that talk about responsibility. We have a responsibility to educate those who come to our country. We have a responsibility to maybe even give them health care and other public services. Many say it's, again, it's our responsibility because we are a compassionate nation. Where do you come down on illegal immigration? Tell the folks specifically where you come down on.
One of the great things of this republic is the rule of law. I come down on the side of the rule of law when it comes to immigration. You have individuals from all over the world that have come to the United States and that have obeyed and respected our laws and followed the process for seeking citizenship. When someone sneaks in to the country illegally, they are trespassing. If you compare that to what's done in other countries, I think it's pretty tame here how we treat individuals. It's pretty humane. You have individuals that are incarcerated and other things, even tortured, and in some cases, extreme cases, they're killed if you cross the border illegally. So not to justify any action like that, but I look at it that when we have laws on the books, we need to enforce those laws, and that is the humane thing to do because it actually protects everyone else here who is abiding by the rules, and they have added security in knowing that we're going to enforce the laws that are on the books. So I think that we really need to look and have the courage to enforce the laws on the books if we're going to move forward and keep our borders secure.
Bill, we have talked about so many different issues today and your position on those issues. And there's so much more we can talk about. I know you'll be talking about so many more things on the campaign trail. I've used the word historic today so many times because I do believe these are historic times. And this is the time where you've stepped forward to run for Congress. It's important to the people out there, the future of this country, who will take this seat, who will hold this seat, and the decisions that will be made. Very simply put, why should people vote for Bill Randall?
Well, Curtis, if you like the direction the country is headed in, if you feel that the direction government is taking us with respect to taxation, if you think that national defense and spending and health care and all of the other issues, national security, if all of those issues are moving in the direction that you feel should be, then don't vote for me. But if you're like me and you really are very concerned about reckless government, excessive taxation, a blighted economy, health care that has gone the wrong direction, national security, if you have concerns and you're like me, you want that to turn around, give me your vote. Vote for me on November 2nd, 2010. I will not bring Congress to the people. I will bring people to Congress. Thank you for this time.
And Bill, thanks for being with us today. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you, Curtis.
If you'd like to find out more information about Bill and his campaign for Congress, go to randallforcongress.com. I'm Curtis Wright. Thanks for joining us.